And hi, Tony. Thank you for dropping on by as well. All right, we are in live Facebook. We are in live DOYO live webinar mode. I'm hoping that you can see my screen. If you can raise your hand, and that will give me some idea that you see DOYO live presented by iSynergy. This webinar is brought to you by iSynergy. It's the ultimate lead gen webinar presented by me, and I'll get into some of that me here in just a second. And I do have an attendee that has their hand up. Gwen, thank you for letting me know that you can see my screen. Sherry, Jeff, thank you for dropping on by today. As we begin, you are in listen only mode, but you can present a question. I will do what I can to answer this throughout the course of the webinar today. Again, to make this as interactive as we possibly can, I will be launching polling questions and all sorts of fun stuff, like the one that I have right now. This is kind of a quiz to get things started to see where you're at in terms of understanding lead gen. Before we get into the deep dive of the what, the how, the why, the when, I figured I'd share just a few nuggets of information about myself. And that is this. First and foremost, we talk about our jobs, and if there's anything, our careers. It's really not who ends up defining me as a person, especially over this past couple 3 months, as a lot of us have had an opportunity to kind of reset. That happened for us a few years ago with the birth of our fourth child. But I'm a husband, first and foremost, of a lovely wife that supports my entrepreneurial habits for the past 15 years. I am a dad to 4 wonderful children. I absolutely love barbecue, and I will talk your ear off about pulled pork. And that's coming up, obviously, here on July 4th. Cannot wait to get together in the appropriate settings with people to put some cooking on the grill. I love outdoor sports. 20 years of marketing and sales. I'll call myself, I can't believe, it's hard to believe, I guess, that I've been doing anything for 20 years beyond living. And I started my career in healthcare sales and marketing services, jumped over onto the equipment side of the business, and then got into healthcare IT. Started my first marketing agency a little over 7 years ago. That is steeped in helping organizations with lead generation services. And as a result of that, I formed a marketing conference called DOYO Live. So DOYO Live has been a result of wanting to provide ongoing education for marketing, business, sales, and design professionals through our online assets, in-person networking, which is a little bit obviously on hiatus for right now. And then our annual marketing conference that's been attended by over 1,000 people. I launched a print publication to complement both the agency and DOYO Live as an event. This is a native advertising play that has featured over 70 businesses in 2 years, both in a print and digital landscape. And so that's a little bit about me. The picture in the middle is me teaching my son's junior achievement class. I love going back to schools in the area, talking to them about entrepreneurialism, business, how to become a YouTube star. And down the right-hand corner, that's me and Mosquito Joe, or I am Mosquito Joe and I. I love helping out businesses even when they may not have the budget to do all of the above, but DOYO Live is generally something that they can afford. That's me as a social media influencer, selfieing Mosquito Joe, who said he'd give me a free spray every time that he got a job. And needless to say, I told him, I was like, well, I've got some opportunities for you that I think you might be surprised. And we ended up getting a year's worth of free sprays. So that was pretty cool. All right, so let's jump in. Here's some lead stats that people, and this helps to set the tone a lot for what we're going to talk about today. And the reason why lead gen programs and formulas are so important, because I see people invest into leads all the time, and people talk consistently about, the most important aspect of my sales business is lead. I need leads. My marketing philosophy, really since the day that I started, has been this. Everything that we do should be driving towards a revenue goal. And a lot of times in marketing, that revenue goal is on the lead gen side. It's measurable. So whether we're running an awareness, a branding, a actual lead gen campaign, I have to look at that with a critical eye and say, is that going to help us generate more leads for our business? So lead stats, these come from a lot of different places: Baylor University, trade publications, Harvard Business, the Harvard Business Review. 7 to 12 touches for someone, a prospect that you're trying to solve for their problem, to become a lead. Conversions decrease significantly, obviously, if you do not follow up. And the fact of the matter is this: no matter whether you generate a lead or not, a lot of times, whether it's a B2C or B2B environment, sales reps tend to give up after they've reached out 1 or 2 times. And this is across the board, whether it's phone, email, social media. But most of the conversion does not happen until 5 or 7 touches down the line. And it kind of goes like this, and beyond that, where 92% of sales professionals will give up after 4 calls, but 80% of the prospects will say no 4 times before they say yes. So at that 5th to 7th, 8th touch is where the conversion is happening. And so what is happening a lot of times is that people are giving up way too soon in the conversation. I can remember when I started my sales career back 20 years ago, and I can make 100 cold calls in a day, and I can get through to enough people to be playing golf for the next month. The fact of the matter is that people have become so busy, so inundated. People have downsized at work. They've taken on more responsibility. And so now if I make 100 phone calls in a day, I might speak to 1 person. Almost 6 in 10 buyers want to discuss pricing on the first call. And that's why an appointment setter or a low-level person, a lot of times, you have highly compensated salespeople, and you have to figure out where they fit into, I guess, the process. Do you want them earlier as a prospector, as well as a positioner, as well as a negotiator, making those 18 calls a day? 24% of sales emails are open. And I think that's kind of a generous statistic. If you go and you look into your email marketing automation software in some capacity, 10 to 20% is kind of a solid rate. For those sales managers that are on the call that have this expectation that you're going to have a 1-call close, that's like not hitting the lottery, but the odds are very, very much not in your favor. Only 2% of sales happen after one meeting. Appointments generated. So Baylor University has done a lot of studies that have contributed to a lot of this information. They say that for every 200 calls that you make, you get 1 appointment. So in that process, there needs to be a lot of touch points, creating cognitive fluency, which is basically awareness for your brand on a consistent basis in order to be able to have that call be effective, in addition to the touch points. So hopefully that obviously all makes sense. Let me do this. I'm going to close this poll, and we're coming up on we're talking a little bit about conversion now. I mean, I want to test you on this one too. We utilize a lead gen formula. I want to see if there's anything that you're utilizing. And the second is our lead qualification process. Not ours, yours. There's a variety of ways that you can approach this formula called B.A.N.T, marketing automation software with lead scoring, or you just send everything over to sales. There's a very famous study that's out there. You can Google this. Harvard Business Review did a study of over around 2,400, 2,500 businesses in 2011, which this data is pretty significantly dated, but it is the go-to when it comes to digital marketing, especially when you talk about the amount of opportunity to follow up and convert. So it is follow up in the first couple of hours is imperative from the time that the lead is procured. And we send those over to our sales organization depending on how that lead was basically qualified. And once it's qualified, it's 60 times more likely to convert if they follow up in the first 24 hours. that's a very important factor, because a lot of times what happens is, if you are on this webinar today, and let's make no doubts about it, right? It becomes a lead gen webinar. If I wait a week to follow up with you, you can't remember what you had for lunch yesterday, and then I'm going to reference this webinar. The chances are that you probably participated in 5 more webinars in between now and next week. You're not going to remember exactly what webinar that you may have participated in. So that's why follow-up and the timeliness of the follow-up is so important. So 88% of you that are on the webinar today are not utilizing a formula. 1% of you are. And then in your lead qualification process, actually 5 of you are utilizing a lead scoring process. About 50% of the people on the webinar today have taken the poll. If you're on, we'd love to hear what you have to say. I'll leave that open for a few more minutes. So along the lines of lead gen and sales funnels, and that's what we have to talk about as well. There's the discussion around this neat, nice application called the buyer's journey, which buyers are on this journey in order to be able to make this process, right? And it starts out with they have a problem. A lot of people would like to describe that as pain. And I've never actually liked to describe a buyer's situation as pain, but that's fine if you do. I like to describe it as a problem, and we're looking to solve what is that problem. The reason why we say that the buyer has pain is because buying decisions, as you know, are made upon emotion, happy, sad, anger, whatever those things might be. We are solving for a problem. The buyer needs to know whether they've gone to online search or in person, number one, that they have a problem, and there needs to be an acknowledgement of who can solve that problem, and that's the awareness game. 90% of that discussion is starting with online search, and then we move down a funnel, which would then, visit, a lead. HubSpot, marketing automation platform, all-encompassing of a CMS, lead gen, email marketing, social media management, content management system, definers of inbound marketing strategy, create content on a consistent basis, delight, engage, entertain, educate, more specifically, your audience on a consistent basis, and people will come to you. So they got into this whole place of saying, well, there's a marketing qualified lead, then there's a sales qualified lead, then there's an opportunity, and then you become a customer. I'm going to pause for a second. Quick breath, quick sip of coffee. Now, in the arena, I'm going to close my poll real quick. Okay. So now, we understand that somebody found us through the awareness. They read a blog. They took a certain action. Maybe they filled out a form on our website, and they started to really believe in the fact that we're somebody that can solve their problem. And at that point, when they fill out a form, maybe they made a phone call into your organization, maybe they sent an email inbound. At that particular moment, they start to become a lead. Maybe they're at a trade show and they talk to you in your booth, and you take down their information. They've become a lead, now somebody for you to follow up and nurture. The problem with sales funnels in HubSpot as an organization that really set the tone for a lot of this, and not sales funnels. Sales funnels have been around for a very long time. You hear the term click funnel, where a marketing technology like an Active Campaign or ClickFunnels is actually the name of the company, is going to get you engaged into the content and continue to send you content that nurtures you along the way. Nothing wrong with that. The problem with that is that it is not a linear path. And I think HubSpot began to recognize this when they put a customer or a prospect central in the flywheel, and then you have marketing, sales, and customer service all as touch points back to that organization as a way to delight, entertain, engage, educate. You know, service is one of the service aspect of any business touches a customer more consistently than any other person in the organization. But a lot of times they're left out of the marketing conversation. So here's the interesting thing that I find about the buyer's journey in sales funnels. And I'll share with you two examples. The first, this is obviously the linear line to what people look at like success, right? Any of you that are in business, any of you that are in sales, any of you that are small business owners, you know, along the way, there are setbacks, right? DOYO Live started 5 years ago, and we've always taken 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Things happen where that trajectory is definitely not a straight line. And our success is really contingent upon the line on the right-hand side. And if you've had that feeling, I'd like for you to raise your hand. I mean, you know, in business, in life, right? So 2 examples for you. One person came to DOYO Live after 4 years. And how they got there was interesting because I picked up the phone and I called them and I said, you know, it's been 4 years. I know you subscribed to my email. What's the deal? And they actually started in the reverse order of a word of mouth referral with a jogging friend. 4 years ago, they were jogging in Mill Creek Park, and the person said, I went to this conference. It was very interesting. If you're in marketing, you should consider attending. That individual tucked that information away, said they started to follow us maybe on some social media, opted into our email list, participated in a webinar, went away, forgot about us, then saw some social media. Then years 2 and 3 rolled around, and they were like, well, I missed out on years 2 and 3. And then there was some more social media, and they happened to be at the Simple Greek in Boardman, Ohio, getting a lunch, and I had postcards sitting on the counter, and they said they looked down and they just felt at that particular moment it was the right time for them to sign up to come to DOYO Live. So now, what worked? All of it, right? If we took any of those different points off the table, it's likely they would not have converted. And what happens is people look at the funnel and they look at their awareness, consideration, and decision. They look at their content, right? So what was the social media in this awareness, consideration, decision process? All of it. Where was the word of mouth referral? A lot of times it's at the end. But in this case, it started with the awareness. And I have another example of me this past week with a platform called Amplifier. If you get a chance, check it out. It's pretty cool. And what it does is it syndicates your content through a lot of different platforms. And I originally saw this in a social media ad, and then I filled out a form, and then I missed my meeting, and then I got put into a sequence with the salespeople, and I got the breakup email, an email like number 2, which I thought was pretty quick, but they did a good job retargeting me on social media. And 2 weeks went by, and then I finally got time this past week to fill out another form. I was 10 minutes late for my meeting, and then I ended up taking a trial. So what worked? I think all of it. And that's the point. And none of it was linear. I mean, it was social media awareness. It was fill out a form. So you have to keep that in mind and stay active across the board and stay consistent. So a lot of the things that come into the conversion conversation when you, or at least when I look at, you know, what are we going to do in terms of how many leads do we need to generate for our organization to hit our growth goals? The number one factor is the percentage of growth, sales growth, is you need to be aligned with your conversion. And you may not understand what your conversion rate is from a total addressable market. That's the green one. That's a concept called TAM. How many people that are in your geography or in your industry or in your patch that you can identify as a potential customer, total addressable market. Other factors that play into conversion also revolve around average selling price, coverage, the amount of business you can cover with not only your sales team, but with a product delivery aspect as well. If you don't have conversion metrics, I usually start with a rule of like 10%. Some different industries say that sales conversion across industries is between 2.5% and 3.5%. And that's lead to sales conversion or opportunity. And then average close rate for industries is 20%. Sometimes this is a long-term proposition in order to figure out how you can dictate how many leads you can get. Everybody starts out with me with, well, we want to grow 100%, and this is how many, and so when we generally have that conversation, how many leads do you need to get there? And of course, we couldn't gratuitously talk about sales and marketing in a cliche without making a Glenn Ross reference. And if you've not seen the movie or the play, it's Alec Baldwin holding a stack of leads. These are the good leads for the sales organization, and they got them tied up in a nice, neat bow. And so lead gen formula. This is not a pretty, this is a very pragmatic thing that we do, and these are all hypothetical numbers. What I do when I look at my own business or I work with a client on developing their lead gen strategy, we start to talk about how much growth they want, and whether that's 10, 20, 50% growth. And this is where the reality starts to set in terms of, this is where the reality starts to set in with how much activity, how much revenue is going to be needed in order to be able to support the contribution to the lead funnel. Now, keeping in mind as well that marketing tends to take on the brunt or the responsibility for all the lead gen status. But at the end of the day, like when I had responsibility for growing a $1 billion healthcare IT portfolio at GE Healthcare and 35 sales reps around the country, we gave some of the responsibility of lead gen to the actual salespeople, and then marketing took on a percentage of that responsibility as well. So let's pretend for a second that our total addressable market is 1,000 people or 1,000 businesses. And let's also pretend that our coverage, our ability with our existing sales team and our product delivery is that if all 1,000 people raise their hand today, how many of them could we actually service realistically with our sales team or maybe our online sales application? And then once they said yes, what could we effectively deliver without making a ton of people mad, right? Without being able to deliver. That plays a factor into what we're going to need to do as far as lead gen goes, and also our lead count. Our average selling price hypothetically per product is $20,000. Our annual revenues is $1 million, and we are looking for a model based upon 10% growth and 20% growth. Now, these formulas just basically work out. That means that in a 10% growth model year over year, we're going to need 5 net new customers. We're going to need to win 5 new deals. In a 20% model, we're going to need 10 new customers. And what happens to a lot of people when they see this $1 million revenue, like we did this year, they're like, oh, and next year, what's the big deal? I want to see 50% growth. Well, when you say that you want 50% growth, then you obviously need that many customers to be able to represent that. Here's where life gets interesting. So if a total addressable market's 1,000, if a total addressable market is 1,000, and our conversion rate is 10%, and we want 5 new customers, we need to generate 500 leads in a year. So 50% of our total addressable market will end up as a lead. And then 10% of that will end up into a sales funnel, so 50 opportunities, and then we will close 10% of that into a win. Now, where that gets unrealistic is to think that out of 1,000 people or 1,000 businesses, half of them will become a lead for our organization. At the 20% growth rate, you basically are looking at 1,000 of the leads. I'm sorry, all of your total addressable market is going to end up coming into being a lead for your business, which is, again, that's incredibly realistic. Now you can start to say, well, we're gonna need a blended rate. And what does that blended rate look like? And maybe it's a 20% conversion of the total addressable market would become a lead is maybe more realistic. That equates into 20 leads a month. 50 leads a month for a business is a considerable amount. I can tell you at GE Healthcare, when there was like, we already own 20% of the healthcare market, and you're talking, 3,000 to 5,000, opportunities that were out there. We were generating maybe 50 leads a month in a $1 billion healthcare IT portfolio, like solid leads a month. So like it varies across industries, but this is the methodology that we represent, because when people say realistically, I want to generate another $1 million in sales, these numbers need to add up in order for you to get there. And it's fine, it's doable, but your activities need to represent that as well, in your tactics, in your strategy as well. Does that make sense? And I'm going to pause because there's a lot of information that I've been presenting. Program. If you have questions, you could put these into the chat. I'd love to answer these when they're relevant to you. We'll also take time at the end of today's webinar to do that. I'm going to jump into lead qualification. And I've lived in a world of marketing automation software, which if you don't know, things like Marketo, Active Campaigns, SharpSpring, HubSpot. Marketing automation software is an extension of a growth technology stack, the customer relationship management tool on the sales end of things like Salesforce.com with Pardot. And you can essentially utilize marketing automation software as a way to track visitors to your website with their anonymous IP address if you don't have their email. It will track their activity based at the IP level and a lot of times at the business level. Once you've put out enough content that will engage that individual into converting with a form fill, it then will give you the identified email address and then put behavioral scores based upon how you set up web visits you can apply a point system to, engagement with social media, marketing email opens, form downloads, webinar participation. And it has at a certain threshold with marketing automation software, it then would trigger, right? So now you're keeping score of all these behavioral touch points. And the more touches that are created, the more that a business or a person's engaged with your brand. And then we go from cold calling, those 200 calls, to now warm calling, cognitive fluency, engagement. There's awareness for the brand. You've built up some equity into that person by giving them free content. And it should be a more sales ready lead, more nurturing along the way. And so once that score is triggered and you're trying to figure out what's the threshold, what's the number that we trigger that at, that then sends that over to a salesperson and puts them in a position to be able to follow up, and the likelihood goes up of a meeting at least taking place. And that's what marketing automation software can do for you in addition to a lot of other interesting things. Prior to that, we would basically utilize a system called budget authority, need, and timeline. And you need to have 3 out of those 4 items in order to be able to say this is a qualified lead. According to HubSpot, which is the marketing automation software, the definers, if you will, the market leaders, say that 1 in 4 buyers want to utilize this as it is. So aligning your marketing automation scoring system or your general, you could ask questions in a form or in a webinar registration, like, are you currently budgeting in the next 12 or 24 months to hire a lead gen consultant? And if I did ask that question, you said yes, I just asked you a budget a need and a timeline question all in one question. You're going to see a stat here in a few minutes of how many people are now involved in the buying decision with an organization. Where we showed that a slide back. There's a ton of influencers, especially in a big B2B enterprise deal, and there's a reason why account-based marketing content is very important along the way, because individuals within the organization are all looking at content and then bubbling that up to the C-suite, because so many people want to be playing in the C-suite, which is a complete pain in the butt when like somebody's like, we want to sell to the C-suite, and everybody wants to sell in the C-suite. So the C-suite is busy in addition to like salespeople and businesses trying to advance their agenda. The C-suite's trying to figure out how to advance the company's agenda. So influencers, bottom up, top down, 3x5, whatever it is that you utilize, it's important to have content that will help to create relationships along the way. Tactics and strategy. This is not necessarily as much as a polling question. I'd love to see in the chat, I want to pull you in to see what types of tactics and strategy that you're utilizing in your marketing in order to be able to, what we feel, this is what I feel, this is my belief with my content marketing strategy, and we've been a content marketing shop for almost a decade now, is that we want to educate you and become the market leaders and the voice that is out there that you turn to for things in marketing, right? We want to be the experts, and I want my clients to be the experts as well. We want to entertain you. So hopefully there's something I said here today that made you laugh. Various degrees of entertainment on social media, to webinars, to just different ways that we approach it. We want to engage you. So as you can see today, Sherry, thank you for dropping on by and asking a question. I want you to take polling questions. I want to interact with you on your social media. And then eventually I want to promote something to you. Maybe it's to buy a ticket to come to DOYO Live. Maybe it's to potentially, I've earned the right to talk to you about your lead gen or your marketing strategy, or maybe it's to advertise with us in Icons of Jackson. Whatever, I take those things along the way. 85% of customers will interact with a brand without any human interaction. That's because all of pretty much the buying decisions start with online search, whether it's a hot dog and a hamburger for lunch, a TV, or a big enterprise IT system. Viewers are going to look, on average, this is nothing new. Like, we need to see it 5 to 8 times in order to be able to start making decisions. Download a white paper, ebook, webinar, bring value, right? If the more value that I can bring you, creating a trail of free, maybe it's a discounted incentivized offer, and that could be down the funnel. Maybe it's a trial. I'm going to give you a demo of my software, book an hour of my time for free consultation, networking. We do a lot of networking events each month in pre-global pandemic environment. We do a monthly meetup, and that is a non-sales solicitation, infomercial of somebody's business. Sometimes those are happy hours. Sometimes those are formal presentations. Sometimes it's just a roundtable discussion over coffee. And 10 to 15 people show up every month, and they have a pretty good experience. And at the end of the year, that's 100 to 120 people that I look at from that networking experience that are getting an opportunity to touch and engage with the brand. Trade shows, obviously, when those come back online. Social media. Facebook Live is a wonderful lead generation tool that we've been utilizing for 250 plus shows for the course of over 3 years now, where we generate a lot of awareness for us in the business. So we brought them value. We do an on-air marketing consultation. When we shut the computer, we end up usually having a deep dive discussion about marketing strategy. Vlogs, podcasts, content. ROI calculators are amazing. Lunch and learn. Again, I would love to see what you're doing from a tactics and strategy. If you want to share those, I'll keep your name anonymous, but I'd love to know what some of all right, so I'd love to see what you're doing. I'm going to end this poll, and if you want to share your lead gen tactics and strategy, please go ahead and do that. We are 10:35. We're on pretty good pace. And again, if you have any questions, I want to thank you for all of you for dropping on by today. Greatly appreciate that. Technology. All right, so we'll leave the technology and social selling. So the way I look at this is that not only, and I should have had a picture of a plan or one of those kids that I have about nurturing. And so many sales people are way too quick, and even in the marketing aspect, are way so quick to see how quickly we can move somebody, I guess, through our squiggly line or down our funnel, right? Shorten the sales cycle, as quickly as you possibly can, generate revenue. I look at like, this might be a bad analogy, but I look at sales and marketing need to be cohesive. And in that cohesiveness, I look at marketing as the air cover, right? And what I mean by that is that there's the opportunity for one-to-many interactions, although you can make those feel personalized with either content or email through your marketing automation software, and understanding the behaviors of people and the websites they're visiting and whatnot. But the air cover becomes the one-to-many touch points that we have maybe in an email marketing campaign that might have a workflow to it, or might have a sequence of emails that says, here's social media tip number 1, here's social media tip number 2, here's social media tip number 3, and then number 4, it's like, let's schedule a meeting. And then we take that over and give that over to sales. Social media, air cover, again, one to kind of many. We can make it feel personalized, but we're providing this ongoing support of touch points, the 5 to 8, the 7 to 12. Sales, you're the ground cover. You're the infantry that's going in the one-to-ones, the hand-to-hand, kind of combat situation where marketing's saying, we did this email campaign, 50 people opened this email, 25 clicked on it, and these would be good for you to follow up on the click-throughs. Ground cover, that's just ground and pound, grinding it out, making phone calls and emails, connecting with people on social media, and we get into the social selling aspect as well. How many meaningful touch points can you create? And that's really what it's coming down to. I love webinars as a content marketing strategy. We've been doing monthly webinars and helping clients of ours with their webinar strategy that are on our platform, or we manage one for them. And the reason that we do that, and I'll share that with a case study with you later today, is because it's content marketing with a purpose. You've got 2 or 3 emails that's going out. The social media strategy, the blogging strategy, all has an actionable call to action that you're going to do something. So it's content, it's actionable, it generates leads, and then you record this asset and you can repurpose it 1,000 different ways. And so, and it's meaningful, right? It's good, meaningful, valuable content. And so therefore, I love the different ways that we can nurture the relationships. And the thing about at least my business, and what I try to stress to many of the businesses that I work with out there, that content marketing is a long-term play. It doesn't have to be in the sense that a webinar can generate leads and opportunities today, but in the same note, we're in the long game. And what I mean by that is, like, I'm willing to educate somebody over the period of 4 years so that when they went with their running buddy and they came to a webinar, engaged with our social media, I'm willing to give you a ton of free content that maybe one day you'll buy a $150 ticket to come to a marketing conference, and maybe you won't. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with continuing that ongoing education, because the fact of the matter is this: whether you end up making that purchase from us or not, you're going to go tell 10 of your friends how awesome all the content is that we're willing to put out there for you to engage you, build the fan base, and then maybe you or one of your 10 friends will end up becoming that customer. And that's the approach. Before I get into and I guess maybe this is a good one from Chris. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you sharing. Um, I appreciate you sharing this tactical thing that Chris says. I do a lot of social media engagement and networking with people online. I cannot stress that enough. The first social media platform that I was ever on was LinkedIn back in 2005. The one social media platform that most working adults have mastered is Facebook. That's counterintuitive. Whether or not you get solicited when you accept networking friends or not, the world pre-LinkedIn was let me go drive around and go door to door or buy lists. Now we're 3 clicks away from everybody in the universe, and networking online is a 24/7 cocktail party. I'm wanting to do more networking locally. And that's the one thing that we've done with DOYO Live is that we leverage the online version of this to get the word out in a cost-effective manner. And then we take that, and the one thing that we found out over the past 3 months is that we all really yearn to connect in real life. So when people tell me, well, I don't want to give my information away for free online, it's my secret sauce, and I'm not giving away my pricing, or and I'm actually, I can even be transparent with that. I really don't, it doesn't matter to me. But the point of the fact of the matter is this: Google has commoditized knowledge, not experience, but knowledge. So, but I value the in-person human interaction when I can get together at one of our meetup groups to say, like, I Googled this and I was looking at Google ads, but I know that you do Google ads. What can you tell me about, what can you tell me, right? And so I value that. We all value that. And that's how we've leveraged it. There's a lot of research, and Dennis, I appreciate you, not me, but the Dennis that gave us information. I think I'm going to save this one to the end, is talking about nailing down a persona, a SWOT analysis, digital marketing contractors, analysis of the competition, SEO assessment, a lot of tactical things there. And I definitely agree with that. It becomes at a certain point an execution thing. So let's talk about technology. Customer relationship management tool. CRMs have been around for a over, almost a 2-decade time span. Salesforce.com is obviously an amazing company, and controls a big portion of the world's CRM solution. There's a lot of free options that are out there nowadays as well, and very competitive. I think HubSpot's still offering a free CRM for like 1 or 2 seats. In any case, CRM gives you the opportunity to be able to have automated reminders, task reminders, deal stage funnel, send emails, track emails. Artificial intelligence is now built in. There's sequencing, which is generally a couple years now into the mix, where you could send up an automated email one-to-one email chain. You create a templated message. It's a sequence that one email builds off to the next. You've probably gotten one over the past month, if not year, where somebody's utilizing a sequencing, and then there's a breakup email that comes along with it. Deal stage funnel, and then I think one of the most important aspects of all of this is that sales reps come and go from organizations, and databases should not be portable. Meaning that the sales rep that builds the database shouldn't be able to hit the Excel file, export, and take that to their next job, maybe your competition, losing all your information along the way. So that CRM is a business tool, business intelligence tool, business data tool that gives you the ability to control and manage your sales. Marketing automation, I jumped into Marketo, HubSpot, ActiveCampaign. The market 5 years ago was very, very immature. When we started at DOYO Live, we always had a underlying theme of HubSpot through basically either official or unofficial, and unofficial would be businesses that were utilizing HubSpot, including our own. And then HubSpot actually sent speakers and sponsored the conference along the way. And the market for CRM is very mature. Just about a complete replacement market. but then the marketing automation software solutions starting to get there. It's starting to get traction. People are starting to figure out and understand what this is. Social media management platform, you might have a Hootsuite, you might have a Buffer, things like that that allow you to have a dashboard independent of a marketing automation platform. Marketing automation platforms are amazing. There's an investment there. They cost all sorts of different things. The beauty about an email platform like a MailChimp, Constant Contact, Emma, is that you get a lot of the same things that you can do. And we lived off of MailChimp for a very long time within our organization. I found that the automation platform in MailChimp didn't fire as effectively as, say, some of the other ones that we've implemented for clients along the way. But at the end of the day, you want to build your email database through your online form fills and whatever it is that you do along the way to build that email list. And then obviously utilize that email list for nurturing and conversion as simply as, that goes from a lead gen perspective. And then mine the data within the email platform, whether it's lead scoring or not. In MailChimp, it'll get you by. Like, there's a little bit more time involved with it, but it definitely will get you by and do a very good job of that. Social selling. I've done several webinars on DOYO Live that's posted on our website and our YouTube channel about utilizing social media to mine data, listening clues, engagement. Like, there's no better time in the course of the history to be 3 clicks away from the purchasing manager, the CEO of X, Y, and Z organization on LinkedIn. Or better yet, like, if I'm trying to get a connection to any one of you online right now, and we're LinkedIn, or we're social Facebook, or we're Instagram, by simply me hitting a like on a post that you might make or making a meaningful comment on a LinkedIn post goes a long way. I literally have had people on LinkedIn tell me, you know what, like, I left a comment or I hit a like, and I've emailed that person a couple different times and maybe called them and follow up, and they say, after I hit the like button or leave a comment, hey, I know I owe you a phone call or an email in return. That little micro touch point is an amazing touch point, right? It is super simple. It's super easy. And I think that a lot of people overlook how impactful that one little item could be. So I want you to keep that in mind as well. I want to get into wallet expansion because a lot of time is focused on net new business. We don't apply the 80-20 rule. People that are within our network, people that we've sold a house to, we've represented in a deal along the way, that reference point. What can you go back and get a referral from? What can you go back and expand the wallet share? So, for instance, at the end of the day, like, you have in the marketing agency business, you provide certain services to your clientele. Maybe you're holistically providing, I'm outsourcing myself as a marketing director for your business on a retainer, or maybe I'm doing hourly projects for you. At the end of the day, I could come back to you and I can say, another offering that we have at DOYO Live, and if it's the right fit, since I have a relationship, if I built value in you and you see the value, is say, maybe you'd be interested in sponsoring or even buying a ticket to come to DOYO Live, right? So now I'm increasing my opportunities with you in a good way. And maybe you want to advertise in our Icons publication. GE Healthcare, we were always introducing new software and new software platforms. And that's an ongoing thing with any software. So you have to look at the natural upsell opportunities, but it is different. It's a lot different. I would not approach a lead gen webinar the same way I would with my existing clientele. I would say, let's talk about some new product intros I would be very honest and transparent and say, hey, here's the product we currently have, and I want to show you the roadmap as to where we're going and get them thinking about it. It's more of a soft sell than it is a hard sell. And I think that you also have to be cautious of the fact You can't make it what's in your best interest because you want to expand the wallet. You want to make it what's in the best genuine interest for your client as well. If I didn't think it was a good idea for you to attend the marketing conference, I'm not going to suggest it. And I would tell you that as well. Like, and doing that along the way builds up that confidence in your buyer, in your customer, to let them know you're looking out for their best interest. But it costs significantly more to acquire a new customer than it is to find out what the wallet expansion is with your existing customer. And if you don't currently have it today, what can you introduce from a product perspective? Maybe it's you have a software program, maybe you introduce consulting services, whatever that might be. You have to figure it out and look at it. All right, so it took us 50 minutes to get into the follow-up, and follow-up needs to be immediate. I really feel that it's an important aspect of the lead gen follow-up. It doesn't even need to be a hardcore follow-up. Maybe the first touch point is to thank you for attending the webinar. Thank you for meeting up at the trade show. Maybe it's the follow-up needs to be a phone call to say thank you, and maybe we schedule a time for a later date. Maybe the follow-up is a LinkedIn invite, but whatever that is, I really feel that that needs to be an immediate thing. I like to believe that we work the leads until we either hear a yes or a no. And I said no or a yes, but I really believe that. From a marketing perspective, my success along the way has always been to use the words we, right? Sales, we are going to follow up. We are going to generate leads. We're going to report on these on a regular basis. Make sure that there's a mixture of 5 to 7 touches, email, phone, social media. If you've got marketing automation software or in your CRM, utilize the sequences, and then put together a nurturing campaign. How are you going to continue to put that in place? SMART goals. How are you going to measure your return on investment? And here's what I say all the time. For those of you that are still with us, everybody wants to know what the magic bullet is when it comes to, what was the lead conversion, right? And this happens to deal with measurement. And along that way, there's lead attribution. Where was the lead generated? Where was the lead generated? What were the touch points that were along the way that led to that? And then everybody is measuring ROI for the most part, is measuring the last touch point attribution. So let's say you take out a billboard and utilize call tracking technology, and that individual picks up the phone and they call off of that billboard, and your call tracking technology leads you back to that billboard. Everybody all of a sudden, the company's like, well, billboards are amazing. They work. Let's go buy a bunch of $5,000 billboards. But the reality is this: they grab the number off of that billboard as the last touch point of attribution. Maybe they're in your email list. Maybe they're in your social media following. Maybe they liked a few posts. Maybe they got served up a Google AdWord. So be very careful when you start to measure ROI based upon the last point of attribution over the overall picture. The individual, the running buddy that came to DOYO Live after the 4 years, if I basically said, what converted them? Well, it was a postcard. Well, if I did that and I'm all in on my marketing budget on postcards, I think that I'm going to miss significantly on the marketplace. And which is why I say what worked. I feel like all of it worked holistically, from a word of mouth referral perspective to reviews to social media to email marketing to content as a strategy with webinars, blogs, and then some traditional aspect as well. And I'm okay with that. I'm very fine with saying it all worked. Case studies. So I had a company, actually still doing some work with them, but worked with them for 9 months very significantly on their lead gen strategy. They play in a B2B, B2C space in healthcare. We launched a webinar with them last August We generated 1,000 registrations, 500 participated in that, and ran that as a content strategy over the next 9 months, nurturing that 1,000 and growing the amount of registrations and then participants as well. We took that funnel from about a $4 million to a $50 million sales funnel in about 9 months, which was really significant. The organization had been struggling to get meetings. We actually got 4 meetings from December to March, build a funnel forecast. We implemented a weekly funnel and forecast deal scrub, and then put marketing on the hook for generating 40 to 50 leads a month, and attributed about 500% funnel growth. Another is a B2C residential company. Name will remain anonymous to keep some of their information private, but we implemented a plan that would basically position them to be the #1 recognized online in the area when you provide a Google search. Tapped into word of mouth marketing because they're very strong on that. They became the #1 in our first 9 months on Facebook in their arena. The sales funnel grew 1,000% in 9 months. And I'm going to tell you why here in a second. We implemented a very strategic plan that had a lot of rigor and discipline around that, meeting on a consistent basis to identify leads in the funnel and the lead follow-up. And so here's why. #1, it's not flashy. For those of you that are looking for the magic bullet, who's the Brunson guy online, you'll see Grant Cardone. Everybody's talking crap, flash, 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 flash. Here's how you build a $100,000 business in the matter of like, and it's all just really like, feels like PT Barnum and Bailey type stuff. It's not flashy. It's very pragmatic. It's very consistent. Like, DOYO Live over the past 5 years, if we've been anything, it's been very consistent with the delivery of what we do from a content perspective with our email newsletter, our blog, our social media, our webinar strategy. And you see like others in the area, starting to gravitate to form and follow that process, along the way. Follow up. That's a necessity. Like I have generated, I've done webinars where we've generated 100 registrations very easily. 50 people participate in the webinar. And then a month later, they're like, how'd the follow-up go? And we weren't involved in that. They kept us at bay on that. And it's like, well, we called once or twice, but nobody converted. And so the follow-up has got to be rabid, like not rabid in an annoying way, but it's got to be a consistent, pragmatic approach, and a process. Who's going to get the lead once you get it? At what point in the software or the B.A.N.T are you going to hand it off, and who gets it from there? I'd like to thank all of you for being a part of this webinar today. We are at the top of the hour. Q&A session. Q&A session. You got questions. Hopefully I've got answers. I would love for you to take the post webinar survey. This was a deep dive. Not all of them are this nuts and bolts, but I really wanted to give you a deep dive. We'll be back next month with one of our media sponsors, WKBN, talking on digital ad strategy. In the meanwhile, I do have a survey in follow-up to this. If you have questions, send me an email at dennis@doyolive.com. You can text me at 330-259-6181. Whatever you want to do, I'm fine with it. I'll communicate with you however you want to communicate. I'm out there on all the social media platforms underneath my name. I've been working on an alias, but it's not going too well, so just go with Dennis Schiraldi for the meanwhile. I want to thank you guys for dropping on by today. As you can see, I'm going to stick around. Q&A. Nobody got any questions? That's fine with me. You can put them in the chat. Thank you for taking the polling questions. And again, I guess the last thing that I'll leave you with is this. Did I want to leave you with that? I didn't want to leave you with that. So many businesses and so many people, and it depends on the kind of the age of your sales organization. The older your sales organization, they're going to rely more on the phone than they are going to be relying on social media and email, which I think is a great thing. Lost art. People are afraid to pick up the phone and make a phone call and be direct and announce who you are. Why are you calling? Create the relationship, establish the relationship. Conversely, the younger your sales organization is, they're going to rely heavily upon email and social media. And so many of the businesses that I work with, I'm like, did you call them? They're like, no. Well, I'll say, like, did you call them? They're like, no, I communicated with them. Like, how did you communicate with them? They're like, through email. They're like, that's not going to get it done. Like 1, 2, 3 emails, you need to pick up the phone if you are in sales. And I strongly believe this as well. And you need to have the ability to be able to make the phone call. I don't know if there's a percentage. I think that they work tandem and hand in hand. So if I got a lead today, I would reach out to you and I would say something along the lines, hey, I appreciate you participating in our webinar. I just sent you an email. I wanted to leave you a call and see if there's any opportunity for us to set up time to get introduced, next week. My email would say, I just left you a voicemail, and I use those hand in hand and in tandem to basically impact one another. So let me just state, I love digital marketing. I love what all marketing can do, from a postcard to an email. But at the end of the day, you cannot be afraid for the one-on-one interaction. And that interaction not only takes you through email, social media, it takes you through a tried, true, and tactic that's been around for a long time. And that's the phone, my friends. All right. Listen, I hope that all of you have a great day. You have my email address. You can text me, and we'll get at you real soon. Enjoy your 4th of July. And I'll be with you real soon. We'll see you.